What's going on? It's the Rap Nerd, and with Cole dropping the Fall Off and this possibly being his last album, as you've seen him say, I figured it would be fun to just rank all of his albums. I've done this with movies and franchises in the past, and I'm like, you know what? I need to do that with artists when they drop new records, especially being a super fan of them. It's like Cole, I like every single one of his projects. So I'm gonna start with that. I'm leading with love here. This is not going to be me dumping on any of the albums or even saying what's better or worse. This is all just my personal preference because, again, I love hip hop. Cole is one of my new favorites. Hell, Cole is my new favorite generation MC and in my top 10 of all time. So this is just me wanting to celebrate his work. And I feel like this also gives me a way to talk about old albums in a way because I listened to all of these albums as they're released, but it didn't have a platform to talk about them because I wasn't doing this. But being here now, it's like two birds with one stone, you know what I mean? Celebrate the artist and then talk about the art that I love. So again, this is no slight to your list. If you have certain albums in different places, I'm not saying F your list. This is just my personal preference of enjoyment, and I'll get into each one of those. So without further ado, let's pop this thing off. So at the number 8 spot for me is For Your Eyes Only. I wasn't expecting this to be what it was because this album was a lot more melodic than I was used to with Cole. And just from what he was speaking, you know, from with the perspective, didn't really, excuse me, that's the air fryer going off. It didn't really match up with what I thought he was going to do because this album was released right after 2014 Forest Hills Drive. And that album was like huge. So I'm like, okay, we're back again 2 years later, what we got. And when I heard it, I was like, I didn't like it as much. And even his rhyming style is different as well as the production. It sounds a lot different than what he's used to. But I will say, I've listened to it a few more times since, you know, when I first initially listened to it, and it's definitely better than first experienced it. There's a lot of records on there I like, and then knowing that it's from the perspective of a friend of his who, you know, pretty much passed away, my whole lens of it kind of switched to show like this really isn't a J.Cole album. This is J.Cole speaking through somebody, and I do like that concept, but just overall it's not one that I revisit nearly as much as the other albums. But there are bangers like Neighbors and the first song, I think, from Who the Bell Tolls. I remember hearing that on an episode of Black Lightning and on a scene, and that is what made me want to go back and re-listen to it because I was like, man, this song is hitting way more different on this scene than when I first heard it. And revisiting it from that point made my enjoyment grow, but still, out of all of his albums, it's the one that I listen to least. So at the 8th spot is For Your Eyes Only. At the number 7 spot for me is The Sideline Story, and this is pretty much Cole off the training wheels for his first professional official album release. Like, you can hear some of the mixtape Cole in this project, but you can tell that he didn't fully find himself from a studio album perspective, because going from the mixtapes where you don't have to worry about sample clearings and you can just speak freely to having to worry about all of the legalities of beats and hit singles, having different types of records for different crowds of people. Because, you know, back then when it comes to studio albums, you had to check all of the boxes. It's not like it is now where you just can do what you want and your fandom will rock with it. You had to literally craft sections of music to cater to different markets so you can get the biggest bang for your buck with an album. And you can hear that here. He's got the singles, he's got the joints for the ladies, he has a few mixtape type joints that harken back to his mixtape run. But overall, Cole is still rapping his ass off. Not nearly as much as like now, of course, but his rapping ability on here is still fantastic. Because I remember when I first heard that album, it blew me away with a lot of the shit that I heard on here. With when I got to like the bar records, like my favorite records on here, one is The Sideline Story. I watched that video and I was like, man, he is rapping, dog. And the other one is Rise and Shine. Good grief, that sample on there with those orchestral vocals building on the hook and Cole just rapping his ass off. My favorite bars from that song was the joint when he was like, I'm the best and you cannot admit it. The hate in your heart can stop your soul from vibing with it. That whole run on that, I think that's the third verse, was just ill, and it cemented my spot of being like a Cole fan if he's rapping like this. So again, while it's not the strongest and he was still figuring things out, it was a solid first album release, and it's at the number 7 spot for me. the Sideline Story. Now, number 6, I know this is gonna piss a lot of people off because I still see this as Cole's best album to a lot, but it is 2014 Forest Hill Drive. Now, I do love this album, and I feel like this is the album when he really found himself overall from a studio album standpoint. I think that he was able to check all of the boxes here without compromising himself, and you can hear it in all of the records. Even the hit joint on here, No Role Models, is catchy, and it was a hit single playing a lot, but he still was 100% himself on this album, on that record. And I think personally for me, why I have it lower is because to me, the first half of that album is incredibly strong. Oh my God. I mean, having this run of the intro and January 28th being raw. I even love Wet Dreams. I love 03 Adolescence, Tales of Two Cities, Fire Squad. Like, that run is crazy. But then when it hits Central Pay, for me, it takes a little dip in my opinion. And of course, I think it goes with the story he was portraying, going into different bags. But it kind of slowed down for me. And personally speaking, the second half of the album, I don't really listen to a lot like that. But man, them first 6, whew, absolute fire, especially when I heard Fire Squad. Oh my God. And this album holds a really nice memory because I remember at the time I just moved to Atlanta and I was riding around Christmas shopping, bumping the shit out of this album. This is when I was still buying CDs on the regular, and I played the hell out of this project. It's up there somewhere. You probably can't see it from here, but I still have that album now. But I think had the track listing been a little bit more spread out in regards to the intensity of it, I would listen to it more, but nonetheless, still a great project. And I also understand why the track listing was what it was, because there's a story being told here. But this for me was his liftoff as to the Cole we see now. So at the number 6 spot is 2014 Forest Hill Drive. Now at number 5 for me is KOD, and this album for me is where I can literally look at Cole's career and see that this is where his lyrical ability took the fuck off. I mean, I think what happened with this album is that he listened to some criticism. I don't know if it was from his homies or the fans or whatever, but he kind of lifted his hands from producing every single song. And I think with him doing that, it allowed him to focus on the rapping more. And again, the rapping on this album is like clear jump from, I think, 2014 Forest Hills Drive and For Your Eyes Only. This is when the multi-syllabics amped up, him doing triples, quadruples, inner multis, being able to be way more slick with the wordplay, punchlines, and still keep the story of what he wants to say intact. Because that's why this album is special, because it is very conceptual, but the rapping is at a very high level. Goodness gracious. I mean, he was able to put bars in songs that have a bounce to it. And I think that's what the crazier part of it was, is how this album was full of a lot of Southern style bangers that he usually at that point didn't really rhyme over like that. So this one kind of kicked the doors off the hinges to show what he is capable of. I mean, this is what you call a flip Bentley to a car to break. Like, that shit was raw. And even on that hook, he's multi-ing like 5 syllables while making this catchy ass song. So to me, this was when his ascension lyrically really went up. So at the number 5 spot for me is KOD. Not to mention, this song hits me in emotions every time I hear it. There's a song called Friends on here that I listen to whenever I'm just down, and man, right here, bro. At number 4 for me is Born Sinner. Now, this was my favorite album until the 2020s. For the longest, I always had this album as like my favorite, because I feel like this is when Cole was able to master his craft as a producer and a rapper. I think it came together like this, and he crafted something quite well with a fully fleshed out story, and also be able to pick the right production to convey what he wants while also marrying his, bars with it. And I think he shines more as a producer on this album than he does a rapper, because I mean, him producing this whole thing, there are so many different types of beats on here that are like, you made all of these? He really got into a mixed bag when it comes to producing. The first record, Illuminati, when that thing just dropped, I remember listening to that in my car just like, oh, what are these dark chords? And then when the hook comes on, sometimes I rhyme like Hove, and you hear that, Born Sinner. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, because I remember my first response to hearing it, I was like, holy shit, this sounds like some Timbaland type beat. That pattern sounds very Timbaland-like, and those dark drums and him just going crazy. Sometimes I rhyme like Poe, sometimes I reel like Pop, sometimes I focus on the flows and all the skills I got. Like, what? And you really see that struggle lyrically of how he's dealing with the new fame and how it's affecting him. And there's this biblical reference and aura, going the entire time, from interlude cuts to pastors and skit formats, choirs. Like, it's so well put together that you can see everything in J. Cole's artistry come together on one project. And I still think that this is an amazing body of work. And to go back to the producing thing, you got Illuminati, which sound like some Timbaland shit, and then you have a song like Runaway that reminds me of something Nas would rap over, and then you switch over to Crooked Smile that is 100% just a very kind of bubblegumish pop rap record, and then Chaining Day sounds like something Dre would produce. So it's like to have all of these sounds on one album as a producer, that's one of the big reasons why I love that album and give it so much respect. So at the 4th spot is Born Sinner. At the number 3 spot is what most people would call a mixtape, but it got a Grammy nomination, so I'm gonna put it in the album category, and that is Might Delete Later. Like, listen, I think that Behind the Fall Off, right? This is J. Cole's best rapping, in my honest opinion. And I think if the Fall Off didn't have disc 39 on it, I would say Might Delete Later is his best rapping, period, because this tape, I think he just put out there to be like, let me show y'all what I really do on the microphone. I'm not producing none of these beats. Let's go. I'm gonna show you that. And from the jump with Pricey, from the opening bar, climbed up out the trenches as a shorty with intentions to switch my whip as much as Rich and Morty switch dimensions. Never really known for dressing gaudy, bitch, cause listen, where I'm from, the bullets feed the ones that's starving for attention. And then you got Crocodile Tears, Ready 24, which I think is a very underrated verse. That first verse, oh my God, that is some. And then Hunting Wabbits, nigga, what? Like, there's this pocket he hits on that record. I'm just like, I go crazy every time I hear it. Niggas gonna put some respect on my name one way or another. I worked the whole winter to take over summer. They late to the party cause they over slumber. Don't hop on it now, nigga, stay over yonder. I'm on Rodeo, I'm bummy, I'm about to get fly like my layover coming. I promise I don't feel the day over 20 and they hating from so far away. And it's funny, I'm clapping at niggas like they owe me money. Pop, 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 click. Shit, now the clip looking like Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. Since I'm quoting bars, let me go back to 24 because this is one I was talking about. I'm just like, this was one of the illest setups ever. And nobody really spoke about it. Where I'm from, fiends line up for rocks. Young niggas line up for Glocks. Talk slick, one shot, all shit, forensics outlining your socks. Poor decision, mortician out, pounding your box. Raw pitching, court vision, dishing pounds on the blocks. You think you about to get this shit over the counter, you're not. Ain't no prescription for this shit, you can't just dial up a dot. My nigga wicked with the wrist, he whipped it out of a pot. From a powder to rock, solid to count up the profits. You ain't gotta sell that shit no more, I got it on lock. Woo, shit. So obviously that's there for a reason, man. I'm a fan, super fan of just rapidy rap shit like that, just rapping to show how good you are. And that project to me was just lyrical onslaught, you know what I mean? So at the 3 spot is Might Delete Later. And then at the number 2 spot is The Off Season. And I feel like this album, it is a mixtape, but I feel like it's an album that closes out his whole basketball mixtape run. You got the Come Up, Friday Night Lights, and then the Off Season to show like, this is it, I'm done. And I think that he took that same structure from the mixtapes and perfected it, crafted it well, didn't produce anything, just kind of stuck to the rap. And of course, he always has a few production credits for himself, but you get what I'm saying. The focus here was just rapping, and yet again, him showing why he is the nicest out. When I first heard I-95, I could not believe what I was hearing. I was just like, Cole is really showing the fuck off right now. This shit too easy for me now. Nigga, Cole been going plat since back when CDs was around. But you saw that triple that, I can't believe these fucking clowns. Look how everybody clap when your 30-song album sell a measly 100,000. I be trying to stay low, but if the beef do come around, put an M right on your head. You Luigi, brother, now. So I love the bars, and then I love the real Southern influence that he chose to go with. And again, it's not something that Cole really does, but he, you know, in his career, it's been mostly boom bap type shit. So for him to have joints like Amari, Pride is the Devil, My Life, that had this real Southern like bump to him, I loved it. And I vividly remember this album because I remember was riding around Atlanta a lot looking for a house to buy, and I was just playing this non-stop, man. Just excellent bars over great production, and still being able to sprinkle in, you know, content from his introspection, like with records like Close, Let Go My Hand, Hunger on Hillside. And it just made for a really balanced mixtape vibe with studio level production and quality. So at the number 2 spot is the Off Season. Obviously for me, number 1 is the Fall Off, and I just did a clear breakdown of why that album is so great. 4 layers of just artistry and creativity on full display. And this is the amalgamation of everything that Cole has done in one. And for it to be 24 records, it's just lovely and works so well on their own. Each disc is its own story, but as a collective, it's just a giant J. Cole story and an homage to hip hop in the best way. So at the number 1 spot is the Fall Off. And if you're interested what my full 4-layer breakdown is, I got a video right there that you can check out. I'll put the link down below, and just a fantastic album, man. So that's my ranking of all of J. Cole's projects. Again, this is no slight to your personal ranking. This is just my preference and what I feel about each album. And I feel it's only necessary with this being his last album that he does. So let me know in the comments what are yours. Keep the discussion clean. No need to mudsling or none of that. This is just fun to talk about art. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace.
RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy. Instead of banking on it, now rapping is just a hobby.